Everybody Wins, a classic detective story starring Nick Nolte and Deborah Winger. The film starts with 20 minutes of boring exposition. We find out a man has been convicted of murder, and Deborah Winger has enlisted a private detective, played by Nick Nolte, to take the case. I was getting really frustrated with the movie. There's a saying in movie making, don't tell me, show me. Instead, I'm being told every detail of the case for the first quarter of the film. Just people talking. In cars, in bedrooms, in a jail, on a boat with a goat, and it wouldn't be so bad if there were more characters being introduced. But it's 99% the two leads talking. This doesn't result in interesting scenes. And then finally, something happens around the 25-minute mark. Nick Nolte finally takes the case and begins going around town interviewing suspects. The tone of the film shifts. It goes from sunny and a little goofy to gray and grim. Everything is now overcast and we start meeting some interesting characters and actually going to interesting locations. The main actress is now under suspicion. She claims to have multiple personalities and it's becoming increasingly difficult to get answers out of her. She's the worst part of the opening act, but the multiple personality angle actually works in this movie. This signals the end of the first act. I should also point out the terrible score at the beginning of the film. Leon Redbone performed a lot of the songs in the film, and although I enjoy his music, I can't believe they scored the film with it. It's so out of place in a thriller. It'd be like scoring James Bond with Reba McEntire. It's a total clash. And someone must have realized this when they were cutting the film, because they switch over to an orchestral score for the second act, which helps to set the appropriate mood. And let me take a second to say that Nick Nolte can act. I think that's why the second act is so much stronger than the first. It's mostly just him interviewing suspects, but it's infinitely more interesting to watch. And 40 minutes into the movie, we finally meet Jerry, the villain everyone was talking about in the first act. Watching Nolte interact with him are my favorite parts of the film. And look at his faux church he builds. It's actually kind of unnerving. His whole lair looks like a level from Halo. Back to the main plot. The second act ends with the revelation that the police and Jerry are working together, and that the DA is also in on it. We also learn that our lead actress used to be romantically involved with him. The whole story starts to fall into place. It seems as though Deborah Winger is pulling all the strings. We find out she was in the room when Jerry killed the man. The plot is finally revealed. Deborah Winger is trying to free the man from prison because she was in the room and knows he's innocent. She attempts to convince Nolte to just turn in Jerry so the wrongly accused man can be released from prison because she still has feelings for the DA and she doesn't want to see him go down with them. Nolte disagrees with her. He wants to bring down everyone involved. He finally convinces Jerry to turn himself in and tell the judge the whole story. On their way to meet the judge, Jerry kills himself in a way that a popular TV show in the 2000s definitely didn't steal. Yeah. By the end, we see Deborah Winger has moved on to a new powerful man, and Nick Nolte is asking her how she could allow all this corruption to continue. She responds by saying, "We saved a man's life. Isn't that enough?" That line actually made me think. You leave the movie pondering that question. If you manage to do one good thing, will that negate failing at everything else? I wish the movie would have spent more time with that question. Instead, it ends with a fancy party. Nolte sees the men that could have been taken down, but he also meets the man he saved from prison. He leaves with a smile on his face. And that's how it ends. Everybody Wins is such a fitting title. Everyone gets some sort of victory by the film's conclusion. I'm really surprised by this movie. When I first discussed reviewing every 90s film with my friends, I said my main fear was that it was going to be 100 mediocre movies with a dozen good ones mixed in. Because 99 times out of 100, good films rise and become recognized, regardless of box office or release date. And I think I've found the one out of 100. That one that slipped through the cracks. It's not a masterpiece by any stretch of the imagination, but it's definitely worth watching.